Okay. Rebecca, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Carmen, for your introduction. And nice to spend the next hour with all of you here. Thank you so much for joining the Kickstart for the new career. And I have to acknowledge you guys are investing your precious time into thinking about your career and personal growth. So kudos to all of you. Sunday afternoon, you could have done many different things, but you choose to be here with all of us today. So meanwhile, let me share the screen. Give me a second, then we can start the presentation. And I want to make sure leaving time for people to ask questions at the end. Okay, great. So I'm going to share my own banking career journey, as well as things you have to think about in order to chart yours. Now, Carmen has done the introduction, so I'm not going to repeat myself, but overall I have 20 plus years of experience in banking and other industry in Hong Kong, China, US, and now Canada. But I'm actually think it's helpful to show my journey in this slide that's more okay, let me make sure I close some of those. This shows geographically where I came from and now where I am. Carmen is actually my CJ. So we went to Chinese university and that's how my journey started. And during my 4 years doing accounting degree in Chinese university, I also spent a year in Columbia University in New York as an exchange student. Upon my graduation, I started my first job with McKinsey & Company, which is management consulting. And after 2 years as a consultant serving clients in Greater China, I thought, wow, why don't I try building a career in China? So I packed up everything and went on my own to Beijing and worked for a telecom operator called China Netcom, which is a state-owned enterprise, and doing corporate strategy as well as merger and acquisition. So I spent another 2 years there and moved to US to get my MBA at Stanford. And then after that, I graduated and moved to Seattle, worked for T-Mobile, also doing corporate strategy, which is leveraging my telecom experience as well as my strategy experience. But at that time, I also met my husband, who is a Canadian Hong Kongese. And that's why when you're wondering why I end up in Canada, that's the main reason. Came to Canada 14 years ago and have been with the banking industry since then with CIBC and RBC. But even within the banking industry, which we are going to touch on later about banking career journey, I've been working in a couple of different capacity. I start off in the investment banking, working in the merger and acquisition group. And then I move on to merchant banking, which is investing the bank's money for its strategic and financial benefit, and also making merger and acquisition for the bank. And then I move on to data analytics, helping CIBC to strategize and plan on where we want to pivot different channel from branch, ATM, call center, using data analytics and a bit of machine learning. And then I came to RBC, again, doing strategy for the US franchise for RBC, including either merger and acquisition or partnership with fintech or a new venture. And my current role, as Carmen mentioned, I'm a sales leader. I'm helping local Canadian small, medium companies or business owners or entrepreneurs to grow and to build their Canadian dream here. So as you can see, even within my career, there's a non-banking part and then there's the banking part. But even within banking, I have worked on different capacity. And later on, I will touch on why I keep changing field, not just for fun, but I think that's how the future holds. We have to keep evolving and keep reinventing our career. So let me move to the next page. So I know all of you coming here probably have the question, hey, Rebecca, what banking job I should apply? Now, I'm not going to give you a quick answer, okay? You're not going to get that. My answer to you is a long answer, right? Same as today's theme,行行出狀元. Even within banking, 行行出狀元. And you look at each of the box is the行here within banking, right? So this is a typical banking structure. I can assure you all the Canadian bank or US bank kind of work in the same structure and with some, small differences. But I'm gonna give you the lay of the land and then share some of the things you need to think about to find what's the box that you want to get into. Now, typically, banking have the corporate banking side or institutional banking, or sometimes we call it capital market. Doesn't matter. Those names are interchangeable. And then on the right-hand side, the light blue color, you have the retail banking side, right? So let's start with the retail banking. I think most of us are more familiar. On the right-hand side, now all these boxes are oriented by different product, right? We all know credit card service, branch service. I'm sure all of you have been to a branch and they have different kind of staff working there to serve you on different requests or product that you need. There's the lending side, either personal lending, you need to buy a house, you get personal lending, mortgages, you need to buy a car, you get auto lending, or you're a business owner, you get all sort of commercial lending. There's the wealth management side. Sometimes some banks will separate the wealth management into the third box. But here we just treat it as part of the retail banking. The wealth management is helping people to manage their wealth and to grow and plan for retirement planning. I know Carmen is more knowledgeable than me on that with her background in wealth management. And then there's a trust service for the high net worth. And then checking and saving account, we all have that as a student, right? This is probably the first banking product you have. Small business banking, I sort of touch on that. Merchant services, if you go to a restaurant, you pay by credit card, guess what? There is a little machine, the POS machine, that you tap on it, that's the merchant service, right? At the back end, someone need to transfer money from A to B across different parties. And then brokerage is sometimes it's part of the wealth management, is like your trading platform, buying stock, selling stock. Risk management, whenever the bank lend money to individual or to business, it gotta involve the risk management to make sure we're lending according to the policy guideline and other client services. Now, similarly, on the left-hand side, corporate banking, you see some, coverage or relationship management. For example, when I was in merger and acquisition, I work with other team. Let's say I have a client in mining industry, then there will be a mining team that only service mining clients, or a retail client like Super Drama will be in a retail team, or Bell and Thales will be in the telecom team. So these are the coverage or relationship management people. Asset management, sales and trading will be people working in the trading floor. Research, I know many people are interested in. Basically, these are the people writing equity research to decide, hey, whether I should buy Tesla or not, or what's the target share price of Tesla should be. What are the fundamental and technical analysis? That's an equity capital market. A lot of entry job there. Also, these are the people who help corporation to raise money, either through IPO or through debt fundraising. Merger and acquisition, I talk about that. And then same, you will see the risk management on the corporate banking side. As I mentioned, when the bank lend money, it got to involve the risk management folks. Liquidity management, treasury and liquidity management usually is the heart of the bank, basically determine how I get deposit from some people and lend it out, and what's the pricing in between. Trade financing generally is helping company when they conduct business internationally, what kind of financing they may need in order to protect their transaction and more efficient. Commercial real estate, that could be lending the bank will make to allow developer to build condo or build hospital, etc., etc. So this is roughly the corporate banking side as well as retail banking. Now, I know I'm spending a little bit more time on because that's the important slide. And I will highlight in each of the box, right? Some are more product, but remember for each of the product here, there's always the strategy group people, and there's always the people who manage the operations. And there are also the people who actually sell the product, right? In the branch or in the head office. Now, at the bottom, it's also important, none of the banking operations can be done without support function. That could be the compliance, make sure all the regulation are being observed, marketing, legal, accounting, HR, obviously very important, information technology. So I know I'm flowing a lot to all of you, but the bottom line is, as I said, there's no easy answer. First, you have to ask yourself a couple of questions. What's your passion? What's your interest? Are you a people facing, you like to deal with people, or you like to deal with system, or you like to deal with operations and procedure? Are you more in tune attending to details, or you like to communicate or present more, or you like more creative idea? So that are the things that you need to think about. What's your passion? Like as Chef Christopher has mentioned earlier, right? Passion is very important. And also look at what kind of skills that you already have today, right? Like you may be graduating from an accounting degree, then go into accounting could be quite a viable path. Or you study finance, then going into some of the merger and acquisition or debt and equity capital market could be quite fitting. Um, and also you ask about, what's your personality? As I mentioned, you like to deal with people, or you like to manage people, or you like to deal with computer or operations, right? So, but I give you the lay of the land and something to think about for yourself on how to choose the career. And in many of the boxes, you will find a lot of entry job. For example, in the retail banking side, the branch service, the small business banking, and the client service obviously have entry level job, as well as in the corporate banking side, you'll find merger and acquisition, even sales and trading, and that's an equity capital market, as well as in the accounting side, the marketing and HR, right? Depending on your background and interest. Now, I have to put a plug that, as I mentioned, it's not about which box you choose, but really you have to ask yourself, what's my interest, what's my values, what's my abilities and quality, right? So one very cool website I want all of you to check out, and it's obviously that they invest a lot into an initiative called Future Launch. And part of that website, you will find a career playbook. So if you Google search it, you'll see it. So it's called Launching Careers Playbook. So inside, you can go through the modules and exactly talk about doing self-assessment, asking yourself the key question in order to nail down what kind of career, not just banking, but what kind of career, or within banking, what type of job you may like. The reality is today's job in banking may not be tomorrow's job in banking. So you have to always think about what kind of environment. It may not be the job title, but what kind of environment, what kind of job content you really like, right? For example, banks today have an increasing number of people working in innovation, data analytics, or what we call, we have LBC Ventures, which is basically startup within a bank. These are the jobs that didn't exist 10 years ago. So you have to open your eyes and really search for your passion and acquire the skill set and prepare for it. Now, next session, I'm going to talk about the key learnings from my 20 years of experience, including banking and other job. And as I mentioned to Carmen earlier, obviously I made a lot of mistakes, and I hope to share all of these with all of you here, so you don't need to make the same mistake and accelerate your career along the way. So the first tips I would like to leave you with is always surround yourself with smart people. Now, I get it. When you're 21, just graduate, you join a company as your first career, most likely you'll find a lot of smart people around you. I think that's a good thing, right? Otherwise, you ask yourself, why am I here, right? But gradually, as you continue your journey, you always have to check yourself. Are you surrounded by people that you feel you are the smartest person? Then you're probably in the wrong room. I always find constructive tension, people you hang out, be able to challenge your ideas, is a good thing, right? If we can always get everybody's view on the table, we'll have a much better decision. So that's my lesson number one. Always hang out with people that you feel you can learn from them. Lesson number two, very similar. As I said, hang out with the people who are smarter than you, who well read and have more forward-thinking idea. Equally important, surround yourself with positive people. There's a famous saying, you become like the 5 people you spend the most time with. It's very true. So I remember during my mid-20s, I started to see, some of my friends after spending a couple of years in the workplace, they get frustrated. They don't like their job. They don't like the boss. They don't like the company. But they didn't want to change the situation, right? So they started complaining a lot. And then I tell you seriously, if you spend time with people who complain a lot, gradually you become one of them. So choose your friends very wisely, or who you want to hang out with. Well, lesson 3 related to that is positivity and resilience. And let me give a plug. I'll also touch on resilience in my next sessions. But very quickly, positivity is so important. Let me give you an example. I call it 3 a.m. test. That is quite a common concept when I was working in management consulting or investment banking. People always ask when you're in interview, the interviewer, when they go through the whole day interview with candidates, they always ask among themselves. For example, if Carmen and I are interviewing for a whole bunch of people, we always ask ourselves, hey, Carmen, who do you think you can hang out with at 3 a.m.? Usually it has to be a likable person, right? So it's not about how strong your Excel or how strong your PowerPoint skill is, but really whether you're a likable person, so that when we have to work till midnight or 3 a.m., how enjoyable I will be in working with you, right? So likable positivity is important. And positivity is not about over optimistic. Let's say your manager or boss asks you, hey, Rebecca, can you do this PowerPoint? And it's not about over optimistic. Oh, I can, get back to you in an hour. It's not about that, but it's really framing every challenges you see in a positive lens and have the growth mindset, knowing that you can always find ways to deal with it, and not be afraid to ask help when you need, and ask it in a constructive way. As I said, I'll touch on more later in the next session. And a couple of things start being resilient and being more positive mindset is have to realize every failure come with learning, every danger come with opportunity. In Chinese we say 危機危機, which is a lot of wisdom. Risk and danger means there will be opportunities for those who are willing to take the risk and keep trying. And as I mentioned, the second thing, reframe situation. There's always 2 sides of a coin, and there's always 2 angles to see a situation. And the third thing is practice gratitude, which has been so important for me. When you practice gratitude, you have good health, and there are people, mentor who are have been helping you along the way. Then it's easier to build resilience because you tend not to complain about or blaming the situation as often if you practice gratitude. So lesson number 4, this is controversial, but as I continue my journey, I really believe focus on building and harvesting your strength, not fixing your weaknesses all the time. Now, this is more suitable for mid-career. I would say as you first start, if you have some obvious weaknesses or gap, like for example, if one doesn't work hard enough, I would say, okay, fix that weakness, right? Work ethics super important. But same as other fundamental skills like communication, you have to have certain level, right? But over time, when you build your career, you cannot focus all your time fixing your weaknesses. You have to double down on your strength, right? If you find you're way better in dealing with people than handling details. Maybe being a salesperson, sales professional is your calling. You find, no, I am really good at chasing all the details, following up with people, and making sure things all line up and on track. Maybe project management is your calling. So this is what I find is when you focus on building your strength, it's more enjoyable experience, and also you have a way to shine better. This is similar to following your passion, because most of the time you have passion when you do something well, right? Isn't it? When you're being forced to do something you're not good at, it's very hard to find passion. So I think when people say follow your passion, there's some logical sign of it. It's really about focusing on your strength, building it, expanding it, and harvesting and playing it out. So lesson 5, disrupt your career all the time. Okay, some of the logo, maybe some of you too young to have heard about it, Blockbuster, Kodak, you name it, Borders. What happened to them? They all disrupted and go bankrupt, right? As I mentioned, my career journey, I was in merger and acquisition, investment banking, and then merchant banking, and then data analytics, and then a little bit touch on venture, and now I'm a sales professional. So I'm a true believer of it, and I do it myself. Disrupt your career all the time. Why? Because we're just in a world that no job is safe, right? And the job keep evolving, and the job you will be able to find in 10 years may not exist today. So how can you disrupt your career? Maintain your toolbox, right? Don't be a one-trick pony. You graduate in accounting or finance, great, you're good with number, know it. But don't just stop there, right? Learn the latest or the future skill. What are people talking about these days? Artificial intelligence, agile, design thinking, big data, blockchain. As I mentioned, I was in data analytics. Before that role, I knew nothing about data analytics, but I was leading a team in data analytics. So I have to scramble pretty quickly to prepare myself to be a leader of a data analytics team, even though I know zero about data analytics. So where can you find those learning? You might have heard about MOOC. So this is all the open university, open learning site, such as Coursera is a very famous one, and I love Udemy, UDMY, right? And then also LinkedIn has the LinkedIn Learning. Reading a lot of books and magazine, following the forward thinker on LinkedIn or on any other social media. What if I don't have time? The reality is we all have fragmented time here and there, 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, and I have a 9-year-old son. So there's no excuse, right? We have to do it. It's so important. You have to find your time, even if it's 10 minutes there, 10 minutes here. Those online learning is the best. You can utilize whatever time you can get. Well, lesson number 6, connecting the dots, right? Like when you first started your career, you were like a sponge, absorbing different experience, learning from people that have more experience, your senior, your manager. What do they think? How do they analyze an issue? How do they frame the solution? How do they communicate in a convincing way? But over time, you try to connect the dots, right? This is really your unique value proposition, right? How can you connect the dot from one field to another field, right? And it's about the knowledge you have observed from other people, you have reading up, you have learned from online learning sites, the various experience you have, and the creativity, right? I give you an example. Right now, I'm a sales leader, but I didn't forget. I don't just forget about my strategy experience, which I spent more than 10 years in the strategy field. I still bring in the strategic mindset to think about the bigger opportunities from the sales team. So that's how you connect the dots. Or whenever I read a report, I try to bring in my data analytics critical mind to see how can I change the report or see the report differently so that it can enhance my sales team's performance. So don't just silo yourself. Okay, now I'm in sales, now I'm in marketing, now I'm in HR, but try to connect the experience all together. I'll quickly say that everyone knows Apple products, beautiful, right? Especially when it first come out, I think 2006, 2007, is unheard of. And do you know why? Because Steve Jobs at one point, when he dropped out from his university, he took some choreography class on how to write. So this is how he connected dots. Those experience he learned it as a for his personal interest, but he bring it to how he designed the Apple product. This is what I talk about connecting the dots. Now, don't forget the fundamental, I would say, work ethics, values, and integrity. Chris talked about it earlier. You don't do things that you will regret, right? And continuous learning, as I talked about earlier. So this is the last session about future skills, right? This is not, posted as a try to threaten people, but really it is a warning, right? So it's some RBC research we've done. There's a quiet crisis, what we talk about in 2015. Our productivity growth in Canada, like most of the industrialized country, for nearly 3 decades, right? So that can have an impact on the growth of the Canadian economy and your job prospect, every one of us, right? Now, we also know this is not just about Canada. I think globally, 50% of the job will be significantly disrupted in the next decade. And same, banking industry, a lot of the jobs today may not exist or can be, done by robot or AI. But what we also find is maths will continue to be important for 70% of the new jobs. So don't drop your maths, continue to pay attention to that. On the other hand, cultural awareness will be increasingly in demand, right? I think, not to mention, we already know in 2028, 10 years from now, the world's population will be more than 8 billion, right? And Islam will be the most popular religion. India will be the largest country. Chinese will be the most widely spoken languages, right? So, and then Spanish will be the second one. So the world or Canada really require people who have high cultural quotient, people who can understand and be able to work with colleagues or friends from different culture. Well, lifelong learning, we talk about it, is so important. In the future, you may not work in one career. You may work in multiple gigs, right? That could be, that combo of multiple gigs could be your career. Now, this is another view of McKinsey study, also speak to the same, like 83% of someone making less than $20 today will eventually lose their job to a computer. And then also talking about finance sector, by 2026, it's coming up soon, within 5 years. This could be up to 50% of the job will lose it to automation software. And this is another view just to show you, hey, 2020, what are the top 10 skills, right? So pay attention. If you're still in school or just graduate, start to build your toolbox and continue to learn. So with that, I'm gonna close my presentation and pass it back to Carmen.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, for your so well prepared presentation. So for now, it is the time for floor question. May I invite all the audience who had listened to this session, give a little bit feedback to us. Filled up this Survey Monkey. I have already posted in the chat. Please go to chat and click the link and fill up the Survey Monkey. The organizers and speakers have spent lots of time preparing for today's seminar. And would you please help us and give a little bit of feedback to us as your little bit of goodwill gesture? All right, and then anyone have any question? Can you post it at a chat? At the meantime, I would ask Rebecca some question.
Sure.
Without wasting the time here. Wow, your talk is so impressive. And, money, money, money. Show me the money. Banking, banker, and also career. So like right now in the parents group, a lot of parents or even the kids, they have this kind of myth thinking about, hey, in the future, if my son or my daughter study in business and then go to work at iBank and go to Wall Street and go to Bay Street, they will make a lot of money. So can you give us some advice about that myth?
Absolutely. Well, before I answer your question with my own personal experience, I'm going to ask people, have you watched Shang-Chi?
Yeah,
So here you go. So Simu Liu is amazing, very inspiring example, right? Now, I mean, obviously, I would say acting is a very difficult career, right? Like many people try, only few are successful. And I would say that's probably within the accounting field, there will be more people be able to make decent money than acting. That's quite true. And what you said also true. In the banking industry, there are certain career that people like because of the potential salary and upside you can get. But I will still boil down to, you have to see, ask yourself if you're that individual or the parents have to really see what the kid, what passion the kid has, right? You can obviously expose him or her to different options, and I for sure will expose my son to various industry, including banking. But I do believe at a certain point it's really up to the individual to choose, right? Otherwise, and it will make the path really difficult. Now, I have to say, a lot of people looking at investment banking, they only see the rosy side, which is the money. But I didn't mention the 100 hours week that people work, right? So it's not just about chasing money. You really have to love it. And to some extent, I loved it when I was doing it. And I love financial analysis. I love seeing the deals, in the Wall Street Journal headline. And I love the fact that I'm making transformational changes for some of my clients, right? So I won't say I just went there for the prestige and money, although that's part of it, but I also like other elements of investment banking. And I do find the skill set that I learned from investment banking or management consulting have been so impactful, so useful for my other careers later on. So think about the potential exit options. There's also a lot after investment banking. So these are the things you have to triangulate and think about. I truly don't believe you can force someone into a career if they are not passionate in it.
I see. Thank you very much, Rebecca. And there's a follow-up question from Councillor Godwin Chan. He asked, what is your view of personality tests in career speech?
In career search, do you mean
in career search, yes.
Do you mean the job applicant doing some personality tests on their own or assessment to find out what they like, or were you thinking about the HR doing personality tests?
No, Rebecca, I'm just thinking about reacting to a slide about disruptive on career, right? I mean,
Yes.
The first job or first career may not be your last career or the current career. So do you think that is based on your experience, recommend that young people, young at heart, would go to those guidance offices where you have the high school or university and take those personality tests? Who am I? Am I a people person? Am I a number person? Am I at whatever? That's where I'm coming from. And I wonder, based on your abundance of experience, what you recommend?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I think those tests are useful. Well, first of all, there are all kind of tests. When I did my first career with McKinsey and Company, they like to do the Myers-Briggs, which is a very famous test, right? So you can do that and understand your personality or preference. I think those assessment or tests are useful in a number of ways, right? One is helping you to uncover really who you are. Sometimes we don't know what we don't know, right? By answering some of the question frame in certain way and synthesize in certain way, it help you to understand, oh, this is the kind of person I am. Maybe these are the career I'm suitable for. Number two, I find the test is useful in a way that some of the tests also provide suggestion on, oh, if you're type B working with type B, if you're type A working with type B, you have to pay attention to these few things. So it actually gives you advice on how to deal with different type of people that you will face in the workplace. But I would say though, be cautious because there are just simply too many personality tests these days. So good way to start is go with your career center and see what they have, and also Google a little bit, see what are the big companies are using in terms of personality tests. You can try some of those and multiple of those and to combine a view of who you are more holistically. Each of the tests has its pros and cons. And the second thing I would say, be cautious about is people keep evolving and changing. For example, I always thought I'm an introvert, deep introvert. I'm still am. And I for the longest period of time, I ruled out because I'm an introvert, I can never be in sales. But now I'm in sales. So don't just completely believe and hold those personality tests too tightly, right? You are a living human being. You keep evolving, you keep changing. So every now and then you can redo it, and also don't let those personality tests to preclude you in any career. It's a cursor. It's give you some directional suggestion, but you, at the end of the day, you have to find what you're passionate about.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Is there any other questions? Can you text to the chat? Okay, there's another floor question. What do you think about the level of competition currently to enter the banking finance industry?
Yeah, so good question. Anything worth trying is competitive. I'll just say it, right? Any, big corporation or prestige or top employer, not just banking, but also tech company like Shopify is also very competitive. I think the question though is, how do you prepare yourself, right? Once you find out, hey, investment banking or hey, small business banking advisor is what I want to get into, then you have to do a bunch of work, which include talking to the people already holding those jobs, right? This is what we call informative interview, just to expand your knowledge about that career and really confirm, hey, is it what you want to do? A typical day, is it what you want to do for the next few years? And also through those conversations, you will learn about how do you prepare, what kind of question that the interview may ask, what kind of experience that they require. Do you need to get a CFA or CFP or whatnot? And the second step is, the preparation, right? Once you have spoken with a number of people in the career you're interested in, then your preparation may include getting certain destination or preparing for interview, or reading up the if you're trying to get a job in wealth management, then you need to be familiar with stock analysis or the market trend, etc. So I'm answering in a different way because I don't think the level of competition will ever lessen. It's always very competitive, but you just have to prepare yourself well.
Thank you, Rebecca. Is there any other questions? We are about to close this session in the public forum, and then we are going to have a personal interview with Rebecca. So can everyone finish the Survey Monkey that I posted at the chat? Okay, there's one last question from Lynn. She asked, is GPA very important to get into bank when graduated from university?
Yeah, I think it really depends, right? I think it's similar to is GPA important in getting into MBA, right? GPA is one component, right? But once you pass a certain point, we definitely don't just look at people who are 4.0 GPA to be hired, right? You cannot be too low, right? 2 point something, because guess what? That just show did you work hard enough during your university? Are you paying attention, right? Can you work hard, right? But once you pass a certain point, it's about rest of the package, right? How you communicate, what's your personality, what do you feel passionate, what's your extracurricular? Are you just studying to get to 4.0 and do nothing else? That wouldn't be a ideal candidate either.